You've got the vision. Successful, disciplined, actually fulfilled. But it's 2 a.m. and you're still stuck in the same loop, scrolling, distracted, telling yourself tomorrow's different. Your routine's a mess and deep down you already know it. So let's talk about why and what actually breaks that loop. Here's the good news. You're not lazy and you're not broken. Here's the bad news. Nobody's coming to fix this for you. But something is coming, a shift so small you'll almost miss it, and once it clicks, it doesn't let go. So picture a guy, no guru, no influencer, not even into self-help. He wasn't chasing enlightenment, he was just tired. Not dramatic tired, the slow kind, the kind you get from quietly losing a fight against your own habits, night after night, for years. So one day, almost without thinking about it, he made one decision: no phone, in bed. Not a life plan, not some productivity hack he saw online, just a boundary. But that one boundary is where everything else in this story actually starts. Here's the picture I want you holding for this entire video. 6 feet. That's the distance between his bed and the outlet where he started charging his phone every night. No app, no system, just 6 feet of space. And if you're serious about actually fixing your nights, subscribe now, fellas. This is the stuff nobody puts in a highlight reel. The first night felt ridiculous, honestly. He laid there staring at the ceiling, phone glowing across the room just out of reach, and his hand kept twitching toward the nightstand that was now empty. It felt wrong, uncomfortable, like his brain didn't know what to do with quiet hands in the dark. But the second night, something shifted. He fell asleep faster than he had in months. Not because he tried harder, but because there was nothing left to reach for. No scrolling, no last video, no one more message. Just his own tired brain finally allowed to actually shut off. By the end of the week, it clicked. He wasn't fighting his phone anymore because the fight had simply moved out of the room. Therefore, sleep stopped being something he had to force. It just started happening night after night without a single ounce of willpower involved. But here's what nobody warns you. You think better sleep is just about feeling less groggy? Actually, it rewires your whole day. His energy came back first, the kind he'd been faking with coffee for years. And the guy who used to drag through mornings was suddenly wide awake by 7. And that energy compounded. Therefore, waking up earlier stopped being some 5 a.m. warrior fantasy and became easy. His body simply woke up before the alarm most days. Compare that to the guy still hitting snooze 4 times, dragging himself out the door already behind before his day even starts. Those early hours gave him something he didn't know he'd lost: actual quiet. He'd breathe, stretch, sometimes just sit in silence before the world woke up and started demanding things from him. No app told him to do that. The 6 feet of space did it for free. One tiny decision, 6 feet of distance, triggered a full domino effect he never saw coming. But here's the part that should actually scare you a little. If one small thing did all that, imagine what the other small things you're ignoring right now are quietly costing you. Here's why most guys fail at this. You think you're failing because you're weak. Actually, you're failing because you built a routine for the man you wish you were, not the one who actually has to get out of bed tomorrow morning. That gap is where every routine quietly dies. It's like buying clothes 3 sizes too small, telling yourself you'll grow into them. Maybe you will, eventually. But most of the time you shrink the plan instead, quietly giving up because nobody keeps wearing clothes that cut off circulations for 6 months straight, waiting to become someone else. So the habits that actually stick are the ones that fit the guy brushing his teeth in the mirror right now, not some future version who has it all figured out. Comfortable today beats aspirational someday, every single time, because someday is a day that never actually arrives on its own. Therefore, skip the 5 a.m. hour-long reflection session if you can't reliably wake up before 10 right now. That's not humility, that's just math. You don't build a 6-story house by pouring the roof first, you start with the one slab of concrete you can actually pour today. You think you need a whole life plan to turn things around. Actually, you need exactly one anchor habit, one thing so small it feels almost stupid that you can do on your worst day, your sick day, your heartbroken day, without needing an ounce of motivation to pull it off. Think of it like the anchor beings from those big superhero crossover movies. Pull the one holding everything together, and the whole universe collapses into nothing. Your routine works the exact same way. Without that single anchor habit, every other good intention you have quietly falls apart within about a week. So here's what he actually did, and it wasn't glamorous. Month by month, he tested exactly one rule at a time, never a whole routine, just a single rule, run like an experiment. Rule 1 nearly broke him. Rule 2 he almost quit, but Rule 3 changed absolutely everything that came after it. Rule 1, no caffeine after 2 p.m, full stop, no exceptions, not even the decaf latte he used to justify at 4 o'clock. It sounds small, But that one rule alone fixed the problem he'd blamed on stress, on his mattress, on everything except the 3 coffees he drank after lunch. Another month, rule 2, a 10-minute walk, the second an afternoon crash hit, no phone, no music, just his legs on the sidewalk. Therefore, instead of collapsing onto the couch at 3 p.m. every single day, he started actually finishing his afternoons instead of just surviving them until dinner. But the biggest shift, the one that cost him the most and gave back even more, was 30 straight days of 0 morning content. No exceptions, no 5-minute scroll, nothing. And what that month took from him is honestly the part of this story most people can't even imagine surviving. No TikTok, no YouTube, no news, no music, nothing but his own thoughts within the first hour of waking up for 30 days straight. Compare that to the average guy who reaches for his phone within about a minute of opening his eyes. That's the gap this whole month was built to close. He said it felt like quitting sugar, caffeine and drama all on the exact same day. His brain kept reaching for a hit of something, a headline, a notification, anything, and finding nothing there. That withdrawal is real, fellas, and almost nobody warns you it's coming before you try this. So his mornings became something almost unrecognizable. Silence, some stretching, sometimes prayer, sometimes genuinely nothing at all. No goal, no 5-step system, no app tracking his streak, just space and himself sitting in it, which honestly might be the most uncomfortable thing a distracted brain can be asked to do. At first it felt like walking out of a packed, deafening concert straight into dead silence, your ears still ringing, your whole body waiting for a beat that never comes. That was his brain adjusting to a volume of quiet it genuinely hadn't experienced in years, maybe not since childhood. And that's when it hit him. He'd normalized an insane amount of noise without even noticing it happening. Podcasts while driving, videos while eating, music while showering, constant input stacked on constant input, until silence itself started to feel like something foreign, almost threatening, instead of just being quiet. Here's the pattern interrupt nobody talks about. Your brain right now is running on non-stop input and almost zero reflection, and it has been for years, not because you're weak-minded, because that's literally the environment you were handed, and nobody ever taught you that silence was even an option worth choosing. But after a few days of forcing it, something flipped. He actually started craving the silence. Not because it made him more productive, though it did. Because for the first time in years, the first hour of his day belonged entirely to him instead of to whatever app opened first. Those mornings became his, full stop, 6 feet of distance from a phone, turning into an hour of his day nobody else could touch. And if you've made it this far into this video, you're not the guy this story is trying to save. You're already trying. Good. Keep going with me. Personal note here, just between us, my own most peaceful mornings are the ones after Fajr, the Islamic dawn prayer, when I just stay up instead of crawling back into bed. No noise, no plan, just stillness while most of the world around me is still completely asleep. That quiet hits different when it feels like you're the only one awake on the entire street. Therefore, staying up after that prayer became its own small ritual. Not because the guru told me to, but because the stillness itself started doing something no amount of scrolling ever could. But here's what nobody expects. Real peace can feel deeply uncomfortable at first. You've spent years training your nervous system to expect noise, so when it finally goes quiet, some part of you panics, waiting for a notification that for once isn't coming. Stick with that discomfort, it's about to matter more than you think. You think discipline means grinding harder, forcing yourself through sheer willpower every single morning. Actually, the best routines aren't rigid schedules at all. They're quiet, invisible systems running in the background of your life, so you're not white-knuckling your way through every single decision every single day. Think of a great kitchen during a packed dinner rush. It runs smoothly, not because the chefs are superhuman, but because everything has a place, every tool exactly where a hand expects it to be. The best routines work the exact same quiet way by design, not by heroics. Therefore, a good routine cuts down the number of decisions your brain has to make before 9 a.m., what to wear, what to eat, whether to scroll, and in return it hands your soul actual room to breathe, instead of burning that energy on choices that never mattered anyway. And this is exactly where most people sabotage the very thing they were waiting for their whole life. Look, I get it, every generation says their 20s were hard, that struggle builds character, and honestly, yeah, that's true. But knowing that doesn't fix the specific thing quietly wrecking your mornings. Someone once told me an analogy that stuck with me for years. Most people treat self-improvement like a ladder. You're either climbing or you're falling, with absolutely nothing in between those two outcomes. No wonder one bad week convinces so many guys they've completely failed and should just quit trying. But actually, the good routines aren't ladders at all, they're staircases. Some steps small, some steep, some genuinely awkward and uneven under your feet. But the beauty of a staircase is simple. If you trip, you don't fall all the way back down to the bottom floor. You just pause on that step, regain your balance, and keep climbing from exactly where you slipped, not from zero. That's what a solid routine actually does for you. It catches you on the days you can't show up at 100%. If any of this is landing, subscribe and stick with me, fellas. Because 6 feet of space was only the beginning of what he changed. But then it hit him, out of nowhere, on an otherwise ordinary morning. Maybe he wasn't the one failing this routine after all. Maybe, and this genuinely stopped him mid-thought, the routine had been failing him this entire time. Quietly, in ways he was only just now starting to notice. Quick pause before we keep going. If you want a space to grow alongside guys on the exact same path, the Discord link is in the description. And if you want early access to uploads, unreleased content, and extra behind-the-scenes perks, the YouTube membership is open too, both built for guys serious about this. But here's the part that isn't about willpower at all. You focus better at a quiet cafe than at your own cluttered desk for a boring reason. Your brain is constantly scanning your space for things that need handling. Even that pile of clothes you swore you'd fold. A clean room, a quiet corner, they don't make you disciplined. They just give your mind fewer things to fight before you've even started working. You think discipline is the goal. Actually, discipline is just a tax you pay when your environment is working against you. Every time you resist a scroll, resist the snooze button, resist the takeout menu, that's willpower burning down towards zero before noon. Design is different. Design doesn't ask you to resist anything at all. It just quietly removes the fight before it ever gets a chance to start. Here's a number that should stop you cold. The average person makes about 35,000 decisions every single day. Most of them are microscopic: what to check first, what to eat, what tab to open next, but each one spends a sliver of the exact same fuel. So by 3 in the afternoon, you're not lazy. You're just running on fumes you didn't even know you'd been burning since sunrise. So when your phone is sitting right there, screen up, buzzing every few minutes, and you cave for the 10th time that day, that isn't a character flaw. That's exhaustion wearing the costume of a bad habit. And the cost is real. A scattered afternoon today quietly becomes a scattered decade if you never once fix the environment that keeps doing the tempting for you. Because the fix was never lifting more willpower off some shelf. The fix is automating the decisions that never deserved your attention in the first place. Clothes picked the night before, the phone charging across the room, the first hour of your morning already decided before your eyes even open. Smart, not strong. That's the entire trick nobody ever prints on a motivational poster. Picture a railing bolted next to a staircase. On a normal day, you never even touch it. You're strong, you take the steps 2 at a time without a thought. But the one day your legs are shaking, the day you're sick or exhausted or just barely holding it together, that railing is the only reason you don't go down. A good routine is that railing. You don't feel it working until the exact day you can't stand without. And then the day came that tests every routine. His alarm didn't go off, he woke up late, 2 deadlines moved up on him without warning, and he'd barely slept the night before. This was exactly the kind of morning that used to wreck him completely, the kind where one bad hour used to spiral into one bad week. But this time something was already different before he'd even opened his eyes. He didn't spiral, not because he suddenly found extra willpower at 6 in the morning with 2 deadlines breathing down his neck. He had none left to find. It's because his shoes were already sitting by the door, laced and ready, left there the night before. One less decision, one less fight before breakfast. And that's the entire difference between a morning that breaks a man and one he simply gets through. His meals were already prepped in containers in the fridge, so lunch wasn't a decision, it was just a reach. His task list for the day was already written out the night before in order, so he didn't have to think about what mattered most while his brain was still half asleep. Past him had already done the thinking. Present him just had to move, one step at a time. That day wasn't perfect. He was tired, behind schedule, running on fumes by 2 in the afternoon. But it wasn't a breakdown either, and that right there is the whole shift, because his past self had quietly built him a backup plan, a floor to land on instead of a freefall. That's the real difference between a bad day and a bad month that follows you, and that's really what a good routine is. It isn't discipline, and it isn't hustle. It's compassion in advance. It's the version of you who wasn't exhausted leaving something behind, for the version of you who would be. A lifeline strung from who you were on a quiet Tuesday night to who you needed to become by Wednesday morning. He still slips. He still has weeks where the wheels come loose and the mornings turn messy again. That part never fully disappears for anybody, and it shouldn't. But he doesn't spiral anymore. Because when the floor of your life is actually built with care, panic stops being the default setting. You just wake up some rough days and realize, okay, this is manageable. Maybe you were never 30 days from changing your life. Maybe you're just 1% away, starting tonight with one habit you finally stop negotiating with. That closes the loop. The 2 a.m. scroll becomes a phone charging across the room, and the mess becomes a floor that actually catches you. If even one part of this hit home, smash the like. It's the only reason videos like this keep getting made, instead of more noise. Tell me down in the comments which 1% you're changing tonight. Subscribe and stick around, fellas. I do this every week, and future you is gonna need the backup plan we just built. Because next time I'm telling you what happens when the routine is solid but the person you trusted never was who you thought.